Can lions and tigers become affectionate pets? Is it possible to live with an elephant? How intelligent are marine creatures? And how do you tame a bear? You'll learn about this and much more in this episode. Today, I'll tell you about incredible stories of friendship between people and wild animals. When it comes to the loyalty of animals, we all immediately think of dogs, but few realize that animals, from which we would never expect it, can be just as loyal. Bears, for example. It was just an ordinary day when an unexpected and very young guest wandered onto the airfield in the Kaluga region. From afar, he resembled a plush toy and looked more like a cat. Only after a while, when people approached the cub, did they realize it was a bear. The airport staff named the cub Mansoor and gave him many tools at their disposal, all of which became perfect toys for him, and the planes and hangars became his playground. Many befriended Mansoor, but among the pilots, the bear found his best friend. With Andre, the bear could fool around for hours. However, as good as it all seemed, people understood it was too early to celebrate. By the next season, the bear would mature, grow stronger, and likely demand something more than just a playmate. The initial euphoria was replaced by concern. Aviators began considering options for placing the bear in a zoo. This big guy needed special conditions that local animal care facilities couldn't provide. Of course, nobody wanted to send him to the circus either. After some time, they found a contact who promised to take the animal to an excellent reserve. It seemed like the mission was complete and everyone would be calm, but Andre still felt uneasy. He sensed something was wrong, as if they were being deceived. According to the agreement, the aviators could visit their favorite, but just a few weeks later, the new owners categorically refused to allow a meeting. An investigation revealed shocking facts. It turned out that the bear was sent to a breeding facility to be sold. Naturally, the kind aviators didn't want such a cruel fate for their friend. They found the bear and took him back from the greedy hands, then brought him back to his native airfield. When they opened the cage, the animal immediately jumped to the pilot. After realizing he was safe, the bear began hugging the knees of people he had known since childhood and licking their hands. At that moment, everyone around understood that this was the only and warmest home for the animal, and he shouldn't be transferred anywhere. Andre became a full-fledged dad to the bear, who in return delights visitors with his calm and friendly behavior every day. Despite spending most of his free time on a leash, the bear doesn't mind and seems to understand that people do this only for the safety of others. Friendship between a human and a bear sounds fantastic, but it's believable since bears are terrestrial animals that are very warm towards their parents. And if a biped takes care of the bear, in the eyes of the animal, he becomes his new dad, who shouldn't be mistreated. Okay, we've sorted that out, but why did the next person manage to befriend a dolphin? Did the underwater creature also take him as a father? It's unlikely that at the time of their first meeting, it was already mature. Most likely, the human and the dolphin found kindred spirits in each other and something invisible bound them. Almost every time a diver descends underwater, he's greeted by Dusty, a very smart and playful dolphin who eagerly surfaces to greet his best friend. Dusty is a female and has lived along this coastline for over 20 years. She's very social and known to all local fishermen, but her attachment to Evan Pender, the man's name, is special. According to the diver, Dusty finds him on her own, regardless of the time he chooses to visit her. Once something incredible happened between them. The man decided to show the dolphin that the fins were not part of his body, but merely a foreign object helping him dive. Apparently, this fact stayed in Dusty's mind all night because the next day, at the very beginning of the visit, the dolphin brought the man a new fin she found somewhere at the bottom. The next story is also about a marine inhabitant, but this time it's not as harmless as a dolphin. It's about a friendship with a tiger shark, one of the most dangerous and aggressive species towards humans. These are active and highly efficient predators, usually slowly patrolling their territory with barely noticeable movements, but becoming quick and agile when they detect food. I mention this to point out that they're not interested in friendship with humans. We don't help them hunt and are more likely to take their prey away rather than bring it. Nevertheless, a diver named Jim Abernathy managed to befriend a real tiger shark. Their bond is so strong that they've been swimming side by side in the water for more than 23 years. Jim and Emma, as the shark is called, first met in 2001 when the diver removed a hook from her mouth. Since then, the man and the 5-meter predator have been seemingly tied by an invisible thread. Every time Jim dives in the waters of the Bahamas, this same tiger shark approaches him and rubs her head against him as if signaling her good intentions. The diver noted that this is not the behavior most people expect from a giant tiger shark capable of tearing a human apart. The American calls Emma his pet, comparing her to a dog. What exactly became the reason for such a strong friendship between these two is unclear. People often help animals, saving them from fishing nets or doing something else, but marine creatures usually don't become attached to us. Here, it happened differently. What do you think caused this? The next very cute and kind creature awaits us on land. In a New Zealand reserve in Alice Springs, there are kangaroos who were once orphaned and ended up in good hands. The reserve is many years old, and one of its oldest inhabitants is an adorable kangaroo named Queen Abigail. According to local workers, she's one of the most charming and kindest creatures in the world. Every day, Abby greets park staff and visitors with hugs. According to animal welfare comments, Abby was picked up when she was only a few months old. What happened to her mother is unknown, but the poor thing was all alone. Experts unanimously declare that if it not for humans, the animal would have likely died. However, luck was on her side. She was picked up, fed, given water, and taken to a place where she became very comfortable. Apparently, she tries to thank kind people daily with her equally kind actions. The reserve staff says they've become accustomed to Abby's hugs and eagerly await each new day. How long do you think a human and a wild creature can be friends? And I'm not talking about a biped and a random dog or a kangaroo. I mean a diver and a fish. Suppose they became friends. How long do you think the underwater friend will remember this? I thought it would be no more than a year. Fortunately, I was entirely wrong. This man from Japan befriended a sheephead wrasse over 25 years ago, and they still remember each other. The fish even allows him to kiss it. To clarify, the creature doesn't allow anyone else to do such a thing. According to the diver, he met the fish during one of his regular underwater dives. During one of the encounters, he noticed the fish just lying on the bottom, barely moving. Perhaps it was injured. Perhaps it was exhausted for another reason, but it was clear it could no longer obtain food for itself. So the Japanese man caught 5 crabs for it. He fed the poor thing for 10 days until it fully recovered and resumed hunting on its own. As you understand, this became a turning point in the future friends' lives. For a fairly obvious reason, they can't communicate in words, but they seem not to need to. A mental connection was established long ago, so the two understand each other from a distance. What I can't personally understand is why this handsome guy you see in the photo still doesn't have a name. Puppy's only 5 weeks old, a male, and his owner desperately needs help. Please write your ideas for what this pet could be named in the comments. The following unusual story took place in Costa Rica in 1989. Fisherman Cheeto was returning home after a typical day dedicated to fishing and accidentally noticed a crocodile in the river. No, the reptile wasn't planning to attack the biped. It was injured and needed help. Of course, the man didn't rush to take it home. On the contrary, Cheeto thought that after a couple of days the crocodile would die and he'd take its skin for sale. However, the predator had no intention of leaving this world. Every day, the fisherman noticed that the reptile desperately fought for its life, and something awakened within him, something called pity and compassion. Cheeto decided to feed the poor creature, bringing it fresh chicken. He did this again and again until the crocodile recovered. Cheeto didn't like that his new friend didn't have a name, so he called him Poco, which translates as strong, handsome guy. And then everything that happened afterwards defies logic. The man's wife left him, considering him crazy, and neighbors began filing complaints against him. Everyone around believed that keeping a crocodile nearby was insane. In a sense, they were right. What if the reptile went mad and bit someone? There's no room for error in this matter. However, judging by Cheeto's behavior, it wasn't necessary. One day, the man released Poco into the wild, but the very next morning, the crocodile returned to his doorstep. This once again confirmed the predator's friendly intentions, and between him and the man, the strongest bond was formed. Unfortunately, in 2011, the creature didn't go for underwater walk, but passed away. Fortunately, this wasn't due to injuries or hunger, but due to ordinary old age, which warmed the heart of his biped partner. I wonder if there are still people who believe that dogs are the only and unequivocally best friends of humans after all these incredible stories. If so, the lion named Zion will try to convince you otherwise. When Zion was still very young, a kind animal keeper dared to take him under his wing. The fact is that his mother rejected the cub, which is unusual for lionesses, and without the help of adults, the little one couldn't survive. At the very least, he didn't know how to hunt. The issue of shelter couldn't be resolved due to his age. Fortunately, a man took care of him, and the cat, to the surprise of many, accepted such an act of goodwill with immense joy. Throughout his growth, Zion was always near his only and best friend, who was so concerned about the cub's condition that he even took off his shoes during walks since the noise bothered the predator. As the man himself commented on this story, this experience was phenomenal for him. In all his long years of working as a keeper, he had never experienced anything like it, because in this story, a tiny and timid cub grew into a real predatory giant who in turn doesn't even think of harming people. Gorillas are another type of animal that, as it turns out, can befriend humans. The man in this video traveled through these places more than 5 years ago. At that time, he personally found a gorilla named Queeby in a not-so-good condition. The poor creature needed help as it was starving and couldn't rely on its kind because they weren't around. But then, as in a fairy tale, a kind traveler helped her. The man obtained everything necessary for the primate and literally pulled it from the brink of death. The gorilla recovered and found a new family, which the traveler was later informed of by the locals. And so, 5 years later, the man decided to return to the same place to meet his old friend. What surprised the traveler most was that the gorilla remembered him. Queeby not only responded to his voice, but didn't want to let him go. He hugged him, admired him, and even introduced him to his new companions. Do you know what friendship is no less difficult to imagine? With a real wild elephant. However, for the girl from our next story, nothing's impossible. She's the founder of a reserve in Zimbabwe. Many exotic animals have passed through her and her faithful helpers, each requiring a personal approach. But the elephant you see now turned out to be special. The calf had no opportunity to return to its relatives after rehabilitation, which touched the girl deeply. She took the elephant home and learned to live with it, even though they didn't speak the same language. Roxy fed the calf daily, giving it 5 gallons of specialized mixture. The animal, named Moyo, perceived life with a human normally, but it long feared one thing: water. Apparently the loss of relatives or some other childhood trauma was associated with it. Restoring the animal's confidence took about 15 months of intensive therapy, and ultimately, Moyo stepped into the water without Roxy's support. Now the animal continues to grow in her home, providing the girl with incredible experiences and equally incredible expenses. As she says, it feels like it's not an elephant, but a little imp that always wants to run around the house and knock over expensive items. Elephants are very intelligent and kind creatures that can become friends, as strange as it may sound, but finding a common language with a real Bengal tiger is on another level. Once, an Indonesian young man found a 3-month-old tiger cub all alone. He picked up the animal and began caring for it. Since then, the pair has been inseparable, and their friendship shocks not only locals, but numerous tourists. To make the tiger as comfortable as possible, the guy even turned part of his house into a homemade jungle, fencing it with metal bars. Stay with us, and I'll show you unique videos with lions that will amaze you. Among the lions, obviously, that was a rather popular movement, especially considering the fact that these cats are extreme territorial defenders. This video shows them attacking a car passing by. Do you know what conclusion we can make? You better not go to visit lions in your own car if you're not afraid to damage its appearance. Though if you respect lions and feed them enough, they will show no aggression and even allow a man to eat from one plate with them. This video was made in the United Arab Emirates, and judging by the expression on the girl's face, she and her acquaintances did that not once. You want to be in her place? Personally, I'm not eager to do this. It seems to me that however satisfied or glad a lion may be, it will remain a wild and incredibly dangerous animal that can break loose. It's their favorite host, which lions will never hurt, a man who participated in their development from an early age. The thing is that in this scenario, a man becomes a second mother to lions. So the animal will never attack her. It's likely to be on the contrary, it will pounce everybody who will dare offend their best friend. The way a lioness from this video behaves proves everything that was told earlier. Just look with which pleasure and love the animal hugs the man. Isn't this fine? So we're having a completely different situation. The lion in the cage has been placed there quite recently. He just starts to get used to life in this place. At the same time, a cat walking along the backside of the fence, on the contrary, has been living there for a long time. Even despite a big difference in strength, dimensions, speed, and everything you can think of, she was not afraid to show her serious intentions. Twice or 3 times, she jerked toward the lion, letting him know that he'd better not mess with her. Where does such a small cat have so much self-confidence from? Can you tell me? On the other hand, lions, as it seems to me, have been used to weaker creatures trying to joke with them, pretending that they're not afraid of big cats. For example, here's another moment. A girl climbed an enclosure and stood right in front of the predator. Do you know what happens next? She's still standing without any defense, and moreover, tries to dance. We won't do justice by saying that the cat was shocked at that moment. It seems to me that the lion was standing and thinking for himself, "What's happening here? I'm a lion. Doesn't she understand how dangerous this all is?" If you think that the lion didn't understand anything, you're mistaken. These predators are cunning and realize everything that's happening. After all, if it had not been so, the lion from this video would not have tried to run away from his cubs. So the king of beasts understood that he had to look after them. This meant a lot of care in terms of searching for food, teaching them how to hunt, and guarding them. In general, many troubles the father was not ready for. Though who knows how long these cubs keep following them? Maybe the lion has this style of upbringing. Speaking of raising offspring, do you know how that happens in the majority of cases? In fact, this is what mother usually does. A newborn weighs 2 to 4.5 pounds. It's only 1/100th of the overall weight of an adult lion. Lion cubs are helpless and fully depend on their parents. They're blind and even can't walk. To remedy the situation as soon as possible, it's important for them to eat a healthy diet. To make it possible, mother regularly looks for food, whereas cubs can gain 3.5 to 5.5 ounces daily. A month later, lion cubs become stronger to be presented to their pride. From then on, they start a new life. After all, they participate in hunting. In other words, they observe the way it happens and take note. The males, right the way the lion from our video, is never in a hurry to cuddle their offspring. It's simply not interesting to them. However, they still do something useful. They patrol the territory and protect their cubs from undesirable contacts with enemies. Mother assumes main obligations for upbringing, whereas other females can also show their care. While the mother is resting, the cubs can play with other adult females. From all accounts, this lion does not need anyone except for a man. It's much more interesting to him to creep to the friend from the back and try to frighten him, except that this time the plan failed. After all, the man saw everything through the camera. That does not mean trouble. I'm sure that the lion will note that another time and think of something new. The next lion that also got to the camera was in a stickier situation. The poor one found itself on a tree and did not know what he could do with this. After all, this lion was a little afraid of heights and did not plan to sit up all day long. Soon, 3 lionesses approached the tree, and everybody thought that they stood a chance for the male to impress them. However, the character of this story was so frightened that even females didn't motivate it. It was only after the female onlookers went away when the big cat decided to leave its place of hold. Interestingly, as far as you can notice, the animal did that quite easily. The jump was not dangerous at all. This is just somebody who was too cowardly. Oh, if only we had an opportunity to talk with a lion and ask him why he was so frightened. Maybe the animal could have told something very important. At least, wait, I seem to invent something. Judging by this video, people can talk with lions. However, we should find that man who managed to start a dialogue with the king of the beasts. What do you think? What interesting things were they talking about? Maybe the lion was telling the man about good manners. Kings of beasts obviously know what they're worth. Otherwise, they would not meet ladies with such a gesture accompanied by a kiss to her hand. Leave a like if you also didn't know that lions are capable of this. It's become a real discovery for me. In reality, I think we do not know a lot about lions. They always keep to themselves, follow their emotions, and do not attack everyday passersby. Even this video is a trivial example of this. A man was driving next to the wild animal and annoyed him a lot. The lion tolerated this behavior. Just more than 20 seconds later, the predator stopped, looked right in the eye of the man, and intimidated him. You have to teach people a lesson somehow, right? So the lion from another video was not going to tolerate the intruders, even for several seconds. As long as the predator saw people going around its territory, he rushed to them. Fortunately for tourists, the car did not let them down. Do you know what never betrays lions? You're right, that's their mane. What do you think they may need it for? When you get down to it, you start to feel warmer. This means that hunting will be more difficult. What's more, it spoils disguise as it blends down with the scenery. What is it useful for? Why does it exist? You should look for an answer to this question much deeper. The game rules are treacherous in the animal world, especially when it comes to males and females. They regularly sort things out, fight for power, and much more. But if goats, for example, can butt and calm down, lions join the rigorous fight. The mane is some kind of a fuse. It protects the host from the bite on its neck. This is exactly why males are not always able to deadly injure another cat. Hierarchy can be set spot in the society of animals. This way, we can hear a lot about the life of lions in wild nature. Then you look at their behavior in captivity, causing some dissonance. How is this possible? On the one hand, those are almost deadly battles. On the other hand, you can see similar tenderness that will touch anybody, even the stiffest spectator. In the shots, we can see a lion cub climbing to the knees of its favorite custodian as if she were not a human, but its native mother it didn't see for all its life. The animal embraces the girl with its paws, showing its love and affection. This friendship between a person and a beast looks very touching, though at times the girl looks slightly dumbfounded by the attention of the cat. The main thing is that you don't get confused and start to think that lions love people after watching all these nice videos. Yes, those specimens that grew up in captivity can show such a relation to man, but as for wild creatures, everything's different with them. Look how decisively a lion from the following video rushed to the man when it noticed that he was filming him without permission. Something hints to me that if the animal had caught up with the tourist, they would have been short and unpleasant, just for you to understand what I'm talking about. Besides the point, the contact with a man is far not the most disagreeable that can happen to a wild lion. As scientists say, lions have almost no natural enemies. However, there is someone who causes them even more problems. Who do you think it can be? Let's start from the fact that lions can join the fight with their brethren. They can lead to the lethal outcome. In such cases, even the mane does not only serve as a protection. After all, the predators do not only sort things out, but carry out a full-fledged battle for life and territory. Despite this fact, their main enemies are parasites. Different kind of ticks harm parts of the lion's body with the thin skin where the beast cannot get them with its teeth or paws, for example in the area of ears and neck. If the lion's enemy is a man, or for example his car, it's less problematic. The whole pride of predators went out to the road and made people worry. Without any doubts, everyone understood at this moment that wild animals can go into a vehicle. However, it was no consolation. Speaking of hunting, lions prefer to pursue it in small groups and in the darkness. They jump onto their prey from upstairs and cling to its throat, trying to knock down the prey as soon as possible. Approximately in 30% of cases, such an attack ends successfully. But there are periods when animals fail. In this case, they can starve for several days. Their main prey is gnus and zebras, whereas lions try not to hunt elephants, hippos, and quick antelopes. This occupation will require too much strength, and it's far not a fact that it will have a successful ending. By the way, this is exactly why such attacks in 100% cases do succeed. Lions are used to eating much at a time. This way, each specimen can eat up to 66 pounds of meat. It goes without saying that eating so much meat at a time, a man will never be in excess for a wild cat. It's not surprising that a man in this video, who is no stranger to this, did jerk sharply aside when the lion got out of the cage. Don't worry, there was another evil ruffian. That's why the man's life was in no danger. However, that looked incredibly sharp and dangerous. Interestingly, as I've noticed now, the man opened the way to it by itself. What was he surprised by? Maybe by the fact that the lion tried to scratch him through the iron fence? If you have your own versions concerning the situation, share them in the comments. It seems to me that by this action, the lion tried to express its emotions and feelings to the man. After all, as we know, lions' communication is provided by different movements. Rubbing with its head and partners licking are the most widely spread tactful gestures. Yes, it was far from licking, but still, it's known that when lions rub their nose against the head, neck, or face of another lion, it's a greeting sign. Maybe when lions jump onto the fence, this is the sign that they lack attention. Yes, I found out that the lion from the last story simply didn't like to be shown to people without permission. That's why it attacked the nearest one. This is the next clip I've understood from where the lioness behaved almost the same way. People decided to hold a concert of classical music for the cat, except that they did not ask about its preferences and decided to play a violin. This decision failed. The cat could not stand them playing and attacked the violin player at once. Fortunately for the performer, the glass was located between it and the evil predator, and everything worked out fine. It looked like she didn't like this violin play, and the cat wanted to put an end to it. Here is another one who obviously likes what's happening around. This is a lion from this story. It lives on the grounds of the sanctuary in South Africa and regularly meets people. Needless to say that people are not in a hurry to argue with the predators by any measure. They're their neighbors. That's why the cats went went further and started to require some kind of donations. This lion, for example, visited people early in the morning after they'd woken up and made coffee. The spectators told, the king of beasts let them know that it also wanted to eat something. They'll either find a way to satisfy their hunger, or it will tackle this question on its own. So people will be the first candidates for a vacant stop in its stomach. It's all right for people from the last video. At least they were at home in safety. Just imagine how terrified these people were who had to hide from predators in an ordinary tent. Just imagine this terror. You're sitting inside, trying not to make any sound, whereas two huge and hungry predators are in front of you, licking drops of water from the walls of the tent. Yes, you would not wish it on your worst enemy to find yourself in such a situation. The lion is a fierce predator that is not so difficult to cope with. Is it really so? Now we'll see that. It's no secret that one of the major confrontations in nature is cats versus dogs. It seems that some dogs are no longer enough to fight with common domestic cats because they can attack even big and wild ones. Of course, a dog has to be large to do this, because a lion is not the same as a cute house kitten. Such dogs as Mastiffs or Caucasian Shepherd dogs may well compete with lions. If they don't beat them, they can at least rebuff their attack. But this is all in theory. In reality, dogs rarely come face-to-face with lions. However, there is one breed that was specially bred and trained to resist the kings of the jungle – the Rhodesian Ridgeback. Now, these dogs can shoo away an insolent lion or chase it away from the territory where it accidentally strayed in. In the past, they took a full-fledged part in the hunt for lions, helped people, and pursued the kings of the jungle. For this, they were even nicknamed lion dogs. Still, domesticated dogs are not as dangerous as wild dogs. That's where lions have a real threat. They often have to deal with African wild dogs. These predators almost always have an advantage because they hunt in large packs. In such a group, they can easily defeat any lion if it's alone. History knows many such cases. Crocodile. It's one of the biggest enemies of lions in Africa. And not just them. African crocodiles, especially Nile crocodiles, are top predators, so they can massacre literally anyone. Only the largest African animals are out of danger. But not always. Crocodiles sometimes attack buffaloes and even defeat them. But let's get back to lions. It must be said that lions are inferior to crocodiles, not in everything, or rather not everywhere. On land, the crocodile feels not very comfortable, unlike lions. So if the crocodile crawls far away from the water body, the big cats will be able to deal with it. But in the water, everything's exactly the opposite. There, the lion has no chance to win. It has a chance only to be rescued, and that'll take luck. In the water, the crocodile feels great. There, it's as agile, fast, and nimble as possible, which is not the case with lions since they're not very fond of water. The big cat can only hope that it can dodge the jaws and get on land as soon as possible. Otherwise, the crocodile will kill it very mercilessly. Lions are afraid of crocodiles. Every time they have to wade through a river teeming with these toothy creatures, they feel fear for their lives. Even in theory, if we put a crocodile and a lion in the same conditions, in which they would both feel great and show the most of their capabilities, then most likely the crocodile would win. These reptiles have a much more powerful bite, denser skin, and they're larger than the kings of the jungle. The Nile crocodile is 5 to 6.5 feet longer than the lion and weighs at least 220 pounds more than it. The next animals in this episode are, on the contrary, significantly smaller than lions, but they also pose a great danger to them. In addition, lions encounter them often and consider them their main enemies in the world. These are hyenas, of course. Why is there such enmity in the first place? It's all about the fact that nature has given hyenas and lions the same food. These animals hunt the same prey, and besides often share the same territory. Well, or at least adjacent territories. And given that both animals are great predators, this situation could not but become the reason for their constant clashes. This, by the way, has been going on for about 12,000 years. Then the animals existed in Europe. In such situations, one species usually displaces the other within a few millennia. but in this case, the rivals are equal and they're still competing. A lion has no chance of defeating a hyena, but only in one case, if the hyena has come to fight with its clan of a couple dozen individuals. And this happens quite often. In this case, the lion is doomed if it's alone. Hyenas will not give it a rest. They'll try to corner it and bite it. The strength of their bite, by the way, is even more powerful than that of the lion. And when the lion cannot continue to fight back, the last thing it hears in its life is the evil laughter of hyenas. Also, hyenas can sometimes just mock a lion. For example, they may try to steal its prey literally from its teeth, or they may simply terrorize the king of the jungle so that it doesn't forget its main African rival. Lions have enemies not only among predators but also among herbivores. And to be more precise, among them there are those with which the lion has almost no chance. For example, the elephant. Everyone knows that the African bush elephant is the largest land animal on the planet. This is a case where size matters, and it matters a lot. The elephant is so big that no one in their right mind wants to mess with it at all. The African bush elephant is 10 times the size of the lion. This sounds crazy, but it's not an exaggeration. While a lion rarely weighs more than 440 pounds, it's quite common for an elephant to weigh 5 tons or more. The giant can simply crush a lion like some cockroach. Lions are well aware of this, so if they see an angry and enraged elephant, they often just run away. They're not trying to look cool. It's important for them to survive. Elephants are herbivores, but that doesn't mean they can't stand up for themselves, maim, or even kill someone. It's just that, unlike predators, they do it to protect their family or territory, not to eat fresh meat. In a one-on-one fight, the lion doesn't stand a chance. The elephant's too huge and strong, and it has a very thick skin that even the very sharp teeth and claws of the king of the jungle can't pierce. Even a whole pride of these big cats cannot always defeat an elephant. In addition, elephants are also very intelligent animals, so they can repel the lion's attack tactically. For example, by entering the water, which lions don't really like. But the elephant has a disadvantage. This giant is quite slow and clumsy compared to agile lions. If an elephant falls down surrounded by lions, it's unlikely to get back up. Lions occasionally take advantage of this by attacking inexperienced and young elephants that have wandered off from their herd. In this case, even a couple of lions can easily defeat an elephant. But in most cases, the giants with trunks have no equal. Rhino. It's a similar situation with these horned creatures. The rhino is the second largest animal in Africa, and therefore in the world as well. The white rhino stands out especially. The mass of mature males can reach 5 tons. The length exceeds 13 feet, and in height, such a giant can reach up to 6.5 feet. In addition, the rhino has a very thick skin and a sharp, long horn. Sometimes it can exceed 5 feet in length, but this is a rare exception to the rule. Usually the horn is much smaller. But its length is enough to intimidate lions in any case. As in the case of elephants, the rhino sometimes does not need to do anything at all to frighten the lion. It's enough just to appear near it. Rhinos inspire fear with their size, and lions often flee when they see these monsters. And if the rhino's angry, it's better not to mess with it at all for anyone, including even the most powerful lions in Africa. An enraged rhino is an uncontrollable and unpredictable threat that can finish off its rival literally in one move. The lion is many times smaller than the rhino, so the herbivore will only need to trample the predator or hit it with its horn to make it stop breathing forever. In a one-on-one battle, a lion has almost no chance of winning. But again, everything changes if there are several lions and one rhino, especially if it's a young creature that hasn't gained the proper weight yet. In this case, lions can easily knock down this slow-living machine and deal with it. But even in this case, it will not be easy to do this because the thickness of the rhino's skin reaches 3 inches. It takes an incredible effort to pierce it. Snakes. There are many dangerous snakes to be found in Africa, but they're not primarily dangerous to lions. Snakes are not stupid and realize that it's much easier for them to prey on something smaller. Nevertheless, occasionally there are situations when snakes attack lions. When it comes to lion cubs, they sometimes fall under the deadly rings of pythons. These giant snakes can easily grab and do not let go of their grip even large crocodiles, let alone an inexperienced and soft lion cub. It can only count on the help of its congeners. But if we talk about venomous snakes, then black mambas are the main danger to lions. These snakes are insidious and ruthless. Their venom is very powerful and can knock down even an elephant. Lions, too, can get hurt if they provoke a snake. In this case, the final hours and minutes of life of the king of the jungle will be as unpleasant and creepy as possible. That's all, guys. Which reaction surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and see you later.